Okay, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 4. We are gonna discuss about stereotype. Group 4 consists by me, Edi Jaya Saputra. The second is Miftachul Ummah, and the third is Hafizah Pertiwi. So the first presenter will be presented by me. Next. So, what is stereotype or the definition of stereotype? So I think you guys know about the stereotype, and have you heard stereotype before? And I think you guys have heard stereotype before. So stereotype are beliefs based on generalization made about another groups or their individual member. So stereotype it can be true and it can be wrong. So you guys have make sure your stereotype is true because they are based on inaccurate information and resistant to change. And then the sort of prejudice according to social identity theory is to do with the idea that person identify is correct primarily. So stereotype makes for individual or groups to other group or individual. So it can be called a stereotype. So yeah. Next. So another definitions of stereotype. Stereotypes are a group of characteristics that are attributed to individual of social group. So these definitions emphasize about attribute characteristic. So a stereotype is component of the central potential of two group, even an object based on similarity. And then the stereotype emphasize on cultural stereotype defined as component that might convey characteristic connected the way individual belong to a specific group. So this the definition emphasize to individual to the group. So the stereotype is associated with syllogistic reasoning because through it characteristic of a group assigned to any belonging individual. It's a definition by Boshi 1993. So I think that's all my material. So the next presenter will be presented by Nur Hafizah, maybe. Okay, sorry. The next material will be presented by Miftachul Ummah. Time is yours.
Okay, I'm here to continue the presentation of material from Edi Jaya Saputra. Stereotypes perceive differences in three ways. The first one is exaggerating differences between groups and making them look strange, foreign, or dangerous and not like them. Yaitu seperti melebih-lebihkan sebuah perbedaan antar kelompok dan membuat mereka terlihat seperti asing dan bahkan dinilai berbahaya dan tidak seperti serupa dengan mereka. Mereka yang dimaksud dalam tanda kutip ini adalah any group or people that has same background or culture. So that they think that what is different from them is not their group. Mereka lebih terkesan seperti menampakkan sebuah perbedaan tersebut dan dapat membuat seseorang yang bukan bagian dari mereka merasa tidak nyaman. And the second is generate selective thinking, which is indirectly like rejecting existence of something that is not following their stereotypes. Seperti membangkitkan pemikiran selektif yang secara nggak langsung seperti menolak adanya sebuah hal yang nggak sesuai sama stereotype mereka. They don't accept the differences antar individu atau kelompok and don't understand differences in background and culture. Mereka memiliki selective thinking yang membuat poin kedua ini dapat dikatakan mirip atau serupa dengan poin pertama. The third is ignore the differences of each group or culture and have the mindset that each of them is the same. Mereka mengabaikan perbedaan dari setiap kelompok atau budaya dan memiliki sebuah pola pikir bahwa masing-masing dari mereka itu sama. At the at the third point, this difference is no longer a big barrier between groups or between individuals, because each one who has a mindset like the third point, they will ignore the differences that exist and berpikir bahwa mereka adalah sama dan setiap orang berhak memiliki hal yang sama juga. And next, I will explain about stereotype in literature. There are three theoretical approaches to the origins of stereotypes are discussed in the literature, according to Brouwer. The first one is the psychoanalytical approach. On this approach, understood that stereotype as a defense mechanism, yang dimana apabila semisal kita merasa memiliki sebuah perasaan negatif kepada diri kita sendiri, but kita perlihatkan juga feel negatif itu kepada orang lain. Jadi, dari pendekatan ini lebih kepada sisi psikologi. So, when something like this is happening, then the role of the stereotype in it's a protector. And the second is the socio-cultural approach. In this approach, it's considered as a result of problems that occur between groups in various aspects relate to socio-cultural and karena berawal dari sebuah permasalahan, maka terjadilah negatif stereotype. Jadi di dalam pendekatan ini dikatakan terjadi seperti kompetisi atau perebutan dari sumber daya, dan maka dari itu dapat digolongkan sebagai negatif stereotype. Jadi intinya di the socio-cultural approach ini, apabila ada konflik maka akan menjadi negatif stereotypes. And the third, socio-cognitive approach. Pada approach ini, stereotypes considered as mental representation and recognition of knowledge, adaptive function, and simplify the social environment with a system such as classification. Stereotype pada approach ini bermula pada kooperatif stereotype, sehingga menghasilkan positif stereotype. Seperti yang sebelumnya, jadi apabila diawali dengan cooperation, maka akan menghasilkan sebuah positif stereotype. Okay, that's all from me. The next.
Okay, Miftachul Ummah, the next presenter, and then the last presenter will be presented by Hafizah Pertiwi. Time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. So I will present the material of the creation of stereotypes. So there are four steps of the creation of stereotypes. First, formation of us and them groups. The step in the development of stereotypes is the categorization of people into two groups, us or in group, and them or out group. This happens all the time, and we often don't realize it. The groups are formed along a wide variety of diversity dimensions, such as race or ethnicity, gender, age, nationality, religion, geographic location, family status, etc. Second, preference for the in-group. The second step consists of the natural tendency to prefer the group of which one is a member or in-group. It makes sense that we would come to prefer the group that we are constantly a part of. These bonds are usually down based on geography and the community. Third, illusion of out-group homogeneity. The third step is where actual stereotyping takes place. Simply stated, we tend to perceive members of our group to be more like one another than members of our in-group. This is probably because we have the opportunity to directly experience the diversity within the in-group, while we have limited experience interacting with members of the out-group. This is what leads to making generalization about members of out-group. Some examples include statements like, those people all look alike to me. They are good dancers, they're great at math but not very good leaders, and they're such a bad drivers. And fourth, expectancy confirmation. Once we develop stereotypes about members of different groups, there is a powerful psychological process at work that leads us to maintain these stereotypes. This process, known as expectancy confirmation, consists of the tendency to use instances when stereotypes are supported as proof that the stereotype is valid. And once again, this will often happen unconsciously. Next slide. So, dealing with stereotypes. It can be argued that stereotypes are a necessary way of establishing one's own cultural identity. If a cultural group cannot compare itself with other groups, then it cannot become aware of what it is. Jadi semua karakteristiknya harus dirasakan dalam kaitannya dengan karakteristik orang lain. Dalam konteks ini, stereotip dapat dilihat sebagai artikulasi dari perbedaan ini, meskipun didasarkan pada prasangka dan informasi yang tidak sempurna. Terlebih lagi, jika stereotip entah bagaimana harus dikesampingkan, kekosongan yang tercipta pasti akan diisi oleh mereka yang telah mengesampingkannya. Dengan kata lain, budaya orang-orang ini akan dianggap sebagai satu-satunya budaya di dunia. Namun demikian, peneliti lintas budaya berusaha untuk menemukan area persepsi yang dimiliki oleh budaya daripada perbedaannya. Nah, di dunia yang terbaik, orang akan menempatkan budaya lain dalam konteksnya sendiri dan dengan demikian menghindari menilai budaya berdasarkan budaya mereka sendiri. Hanya dengan begitu, stereotip pada akhirnya akan hilang. Next slide. And the last material, example of stereotypes. So you can see there are several kind of American stereotypes. All American eat McDonald's, everything is bigger in America, etc. The first picture, American only eat McDonald's. So according to CBS News, every day about 1/4 of the US population eats fast food. Indeed, a quarter of population is a lot of people, but people who do not eat fast food are even more. And another example, all Americans have guns. So in America, it's not unusual for people to have a gun. Almost every adult can own or carry one. It's seen as a person's basic right to be allowed to do this. That's because when America was founded, the right to buy and carry a gun was written into the Constitution, which is a list of basic rules that the country is based on. And the only reasons that someone might not be allowed to have a gun would be if they are a convicted criminal, have a mental illness, or if they are not a US citizens. So in other words, not every American have guns, they're just allowed to have it and can refuse to have one. I think that's all my material. I will give it back to the moderator. Thank
Okay, thank you for all of the presenter was present their material. So I think that's all for our group. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.